evening and welcome to the March 29th, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Select Board. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let me know. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until July 15, 2022, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted via in-person and remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Our conference ID is 203-386-491#. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Again, welcome, everybody. Just a reminder, if everyone would please mute their mics and turn off their cameras until called on. Okay, let's start with a roll call. Vice Chair Shireen Davis.
Present.
Clerk Corey Metters.
Present.
Select Board Member Dean Nicastro.
Present.
Select Board Member Jeff Dykins.
Present.
And the Chair, Peter Kokolas, is present. Okay, just a quick overview. Before we start, let me mention there's been a change in the agenda, and that agenda, an agenda item under new business, 3B, little d. Consider an application for one-day alcohol permit. In one place it says Chatham Yacht Club, and another it says Monomoy Yacht Club. We're delaying that until next week, and everyone, I believe, has been notified. So, okay, we'll start with our minutes, just to go for an overview. We start with the minutes of March 17th. We then do public announcements and agenda item requests. That's when you look forward to any agenda items you want to put on and make any kind of announcements. Then comes public comments on the following agenda items under the business issue. Except for the people that are speaking, which will speak during the agenda item, you can speak to any or all of the following, okay? The first is consider placing a citizen petition ballot on the 2022 annual election having to do with Holtec International Pilgrim Nuclear Power. The one after that is consider request to use town roads from the Cape Cod Athletic Club for a Chatham Harbor Run and Chatham in the fall. The one after that is consider a special one-day alcohol permits and one-day entertainment for the Atwood Museum. One after that is consider a donation acceptance from the Chamber and the Merchants and Merchants Beautification Committee. And then finally, we get into two annual town meeting citizen petition articles. One is a special act of legislation to amend and adopt residential real estate. And the last one is allow tent camping within municipal conservation district. Okay, let's go back to the minutes. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any changes, additions, discussion? Jeff and then Dean.
Yeah, just thank you, Mr. Chairman. The vote on the Orleans Cape Cod 5 housing project to recommend, I believe we just got it wrong a little bit. I think I voted yes, and Corey voted yes, and the rest of us voted no.
Which page is it?
Page 4, the vote on the Orleans.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So we just want to correct that. Thank
All
you.
right. Dean?
Yes. So I just want to understand that.
Thank you. So I just want to understand that the changes just made. So the vote on that was Dykins, yes. Nicastro, no. Metters, yes.
Shireen, no.
Shireen was no.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you. Thanks for catching that. Peter, I had three. On the right at the beginning, I would note that Debbie Aikman, the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, was present. I don't think she spoke, but I think her presence should be noted at the outset. Two more. One on page 4, under the Orleans Housing. In the second sentence, it begins, "While the board did not vote against the appropriation of funds." I'm not sure what that means, but I would propose striking that because we did vote not to recommend the project. I would just start the sentence with the word "they" emphasize. And lastly, on page 5, under item 6, the CPA vote, article on the Atwood House, in the second line after the word "officer," I would like to insert the words "or director."
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Any others? Okay. Seeing none, let's take a vote. Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Next up, our public announcement agenda item request. Anything from the board? Nothing? I know we have one from the staff, I believe, right? Dr. Duncanson?
Yes, Dr. Duncanson.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the board, members of the public. I have just a couple of quick announcements here. One is that the sticker office, which has been temporarily closed, is going to reopen again starting next Monday, April 4th. And the sticker office will be open for in-person transactions from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mondays through Friday. But I continue to urge everyone to do as much as they can with our online system. And the online portal for 2022 stickers will go live this Thursday, March 31st. So starting this Thursday, March 31st, you'll be able to go online to get your beach, transfer station, recycling sticker, or combination sticker. And we're using the same firm that we had last year, so hopefully everyone created an online account and you can just go in and order your stickers for 2022, which you'll need starting July 1st. And then those stickers will be mailed out beginning in mid-May. You will still need to fill out a mail-in application for shellfish permits as well as North Beach ORV stickers. But just for everybody, a reminder that last week the Board of Selectmen did extend the expiration date for the North Beach stickers from April 30th through to June 30th. So North Beach ORV stickers are good for another 2 months than normal, and so they will expire on June 30th. So you will need your new North Beach stickers starting July 1st. And then from here on out, those stickers will now have a June 30th expiration date, similar to all our other stickers for the beach and transfer station. And then I just wanted to make people aware that this afternoon, the FDA, the federal FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, did approve COVID-19 booster shots, a second booster for anyone 50 years of age and older, as well as folks with compromised immune systems. So I just wanted to get that word out. Otherwise, honestly, we are doing pretty good with COVID right now in Chatham. We've had another week where we had no reported cases of COVID-19. But keep in mind, that's only testing that is reported to the state. So if folks are doing their own testing using an at-home test kit, those are not reported. So there is more than likely more cases out there than are being reported officially. And then my last quick announcement, I just wanted to announce that next week, April 4th through 10th, is Public Health Week. So just if you know somebody that works in public health, our health agent, our health inspector, and you happen to see them out and about doing their job, thank them for their service, because they've been doing a lot more than usual with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Anyone else from the staff? I see one public, I think. Yes. Nicole Stern.
Hi,
Hi, welcome.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I had originally requested an agenda item to discuss available options that help protect against COVID-19 in immune-compromised people who are unable to mount an adequate or any antibody response to COVID vaccines or boosters. That includes transplant and cancer patients, autoimmune disorders requiring long-term steroid and biological treatments, those highly allergic to vaccines, generic diseases, and others. But I thought the sooner people knew there was a possible option for them, the sooner they could have discussions with their physicians. So that's my announcement. It's called Evusheld, EVUSHELD. It's developed by AstraZeneca. It's the first monoclonal antibody product authorized specifically for use before any known exposure to the virus. A preventative, we hope. It's been made available to hospitals throughout Massachusetts, including Cape Cod Hospital. Of course, initially, like COVID vaccines, there's never enough. There was a lengthy article in the New York Times on Monday, which also included Evusheld, which is the first time I've ever seen it publicly mentioned, other than my research, which I did on the internet, et cetera, et cetera. I'm happy to forward the article. Unless you get the New York Times, then you may have already seen it. I'm asking the board to help get the word out, perhaps reach out to the Chronicle to follow the Times article, or whatever we can do to make people aware that this is available. It may not be for everyone, but it definitely is a great option for people, and I know several that have no antibodies for COVID, which is very different than normal antibodies that most of us have, except transplant patients and a lot of cancer patients. So you may have already heard of Evusheld. Has anybody heard of it? Dr. Duncanson, perhaps you have?
No, this is just an announcement that I get.
Oh, okay.
I heard that, yeah, no problem, Nicole. I get your point, and it is on our list. And I understand that you wanted to move ahead quickly, and I understand that.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I'm happy to send the article to anyone who's interested in it.
I tell you what, send it to Alec Pavlakis or to Shauna Neely. That's an easier word.
I can send it to Shauna. Yeah,
Okay.
the other one, forget it. I can't even pronounce it. But thank
Hey, it's
you.
easy. It rolls off the tongue, Pavlakis.
Not one of my specialties, but thank you very much. And I hope I stayed within the 3 minutes.
You're fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone on the phone? Nope, don't hear anyone. Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to public comments on our business agenda. And I think I'll do what I did previously. I'll just go down the list. That was a good idea from the board previously. Anyone have anything to say? Not the people that are presenting again, right? Okay. Consider placing the citizens petition on an annual, on our town election on Holtec International Program. That has to do with wastewater into the Cape Cod. It's been in the papers and whatever. And we sent a letter on it. Any comments? I see none from. Next is consider request for use of town roads from the Cape Cod Athletic Club for Chatham Harbor Run, and also the Chatham in the Fall 10K, both of which we've had for a number of years. Okay. Consider an application for special one-day alcohol permits from the Atwood Museum, and there's a number of them, usually the same, well, not the same dates, but usually a number of them. Okay. Consider a donation acceptance from the Chamber and Merchants Beautification Committee. It has to do with a brick walkway, Cape Gould Park. Seeing none. Then we go to our petitions. One for a special act on legislation to amend and adopt residential real estate tax exemption. And then the last one is allow tent camping within the municipal conservancy district. Okay, seeing none, let's move ahead with our agenda. And first up, going back to ballot question, and that's, I'm going to say this right, Diane, right? Diane, if you want to present, you can go front, and it's, let me just, while she's walking up there, has to do with a petition ballot, Holtec International and Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant, the request they had to put wastewater into Cape Cod Bay. Go ahead.
Yes.
Welcome, Diane.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Diane Turco, Director of Cape Downwinders, and we have formed a new organization called Save Our Bay with real estate folks, fishermen, Native Americans, a real nice coalition. But what's happened is since Pilgrim shut down in 2019, Holtec decommissioning has been taking the reactor apart and using water to shield their workers from the highly radioactive components. There's also the spent fuel pool that held over 3,800 spent nuclear rods that were highly radioactive. And they have this water there now, and they have to get rid of it before they can pull all the buildings down. And so what Holtec is proposing is that they just dump it into the bay, into Cape Cod Bay. They have the permission from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which is a federal oversight agency that is really captured by the industry because they've given them permission to do this. They're going to dilute it, which you can't dilute radionuclides. They will actually, become embedded into the sediment, into the grasses, be eaten by the small organisms, and go up the food chain. And plus, also, there's a radioactive nuclide tritium that's in the water, and Holtec says, well, it'll just, dissipate in the water. And in fact, oceanographer from Hui has told us that the current in the bay is like it's spinning around and spinning around, and that sediment, it will settle in the sediment and again rise up into the food chain. So every town on Cape Cod, Yarmouth is looking at it tonight, and Chatham is the last town to look at this petition. We want the citizens to have a voice in this matter. Everyone is against it. Senator Markey, Senator Warren, Representative Keating, all our representatives have said don't dump. But Holtec still has it on their business plan and refuses to take it off. So we have to continue with the public pressure to have them remove that from their business plan. There are other options. Vermont Yankee trucked the water to a licensed facility in Idaho where they take that contaminated water, mix it with a substance that makes it solid, and then they put it in a container because it has to be contained from the environment for thousands of years. So we're asking the town of Chatham to please support this petition. You'll join all the towns on Martha's Vineyard and on Cape Cod, and the voices of the Cape Cod people will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. I would mention to the board that this has been certified by the clerk. All right, and also we did send a letter February 2nd to the governor. Any comments, questions? Shireen?
Thank you for your advocacy on this issue and all the work that you've been doing for many, many years in keeping awareness of Pilgrim and the power plant. I have a daughter that lives right down the road from there, and grandchildren. So I'm very much aware of the building itself and the activity that's going on there. Mm-hmm. And I look every day, when I'm there visiting, Plymouth has, air horns and sirens, and everybody has the, medicine in their refrigerators just in case. And that's something that people have been living with for a very, very long time. And putting trust into the process of having this decommissioned was a light at the end of the tunnel. But Holtec is not a nice company at all, and we all know that. It's an evildoer, is what it is. And so I'm very supportive of what you're doing, your efforts, and I'm wholeheartedly support your ballot question.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen.
Thank you.
Dean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. You probably know that this board recently sent a letter to the governor in opposition to what they're proposing. I just had one question about one of your whereases, which says that the Attorney General of New Mexico has filed a lawsuit against the NRC for unlawful proceedings and illegal activities involving Holtec. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, yes. Holtec is here just to make a lot of money. That's all they're doing. And so when they came to Plymouth, they said they were going to open a centralized interim storage facility in New Mexico and take all the waste out of Plymouth starting in the year 2024. That's not going to happen. Developing a centralized interim storage would take the waste from they're saying take the waste from a lot of nuclear sites in those giant canisters and bring it to New Mexico. And that's a violation of federal law. The Nuclear Waste Policy Act says they cannot have any centralized interim storage facilities until there is a federal repository available. Otherwise, it's going to become a de facto waste site. And so the New Mexican government has filed a lawsuit against the NRC and has named Holtec in that lawsuit for misleading information, for illegal activities. I could send you the whole lawsuit. It's just remarkable. There's over 100 contentions in there, and Holtec is named in a lot of them. So this is a company we have right on Cape Cod Bay, and we don't trust them to do the good job. And if I may add, right on that site right now is a interim storage facility where over 4,000 highly radioactive nuclear rods are being kept in canisters that are made by Holtec. And if I had my coffee cup, I'd show you. If you look at your travel coffee cup, it's a quarter of an inch thick of steel. Those canisters are only a quarter of an inch thicker. They're half-inch stainless steel and concrete cast. They have a warranty of 25 years. That's not much. So, and we're all in an experiment in this. They don't know what to do with the waste. They don't know what to do with the water, and that's a problem that our federal government and the nuclear industry has really failed to protect the public. And it's up to us to keep pushing this and making sure they do the right thing.
Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Diane, thank you so much. Thank you for your advocacy for this. Cape Downwinders, you've been at this for a while, even prior to the decommissioning of the plant. So I applaud you for that. I have a question on, the town of Chatham is directing Governor Baker and our legislature to do something. That's
Right.
what we're doing.
Right.
How about the rest of the 340 towns in the Commonwealth?
Well,
Do they
we-
care, or is it just southeastern Mass, or?
We're hoping to spread the word.
Okay.
This whole water dumping just came up a few months ago. So we're hoping to get the whole state involved. That's why we have this new coalition,
Yeah.
Save Our Bays. And actually, I've been doing this when I was a teacher in Chatham in the 1980s. So
Yeah.
I've been at this a long time.
Is
Yeah.
it a fair statement to say that Holtec doesn't want to incur the expense of trucking these waters out west and making them solid?
The decommissioning trust fund is what is being used by Holtec to take the building apart and do all this work. That is ratepayer money that was collected from all of us up until 1999 when the rules changed. So Holtec bought Pilgrim for about $1,000 and got the $1.03 billion decommissioning trust fund to decommission Pilgrim. They are using that money for waste storage. They used it for paying taxes. That isn't what it was meant for. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission gives them exemptions to use it for matters that it wasn't intended to be used for. And that's why there's a problem. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the industry are like this. And so we have to protect our common interests in the Commonwealth because they aren't doing so. So Holtec is just trying to do the cheapest, quickest job. Yeah, it would cost money to truck it, and they're still not taking that off their table.
Yeah, that was my point. So I
Yeah.
just, good luck, and let's keep the pressure on. And
Absolutely.
We can't allow this to happen.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Corey?
Thank you, Peter. No, I mean, frankly, this business plan to dump this water into the bay is complete foolishness, and I think everyone sees through it. Everyone understands the impacts, environmental and economic, you name it. I'm glad there's wide support on this. I'm glad, some of our elected officials higher up are supporting this, and I think the communities are supporting it, and I think this board will support it, and I expect it to be a favorable response at the ballot box. So I'm 100% behind this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Shereen?
So I'm going to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station wastewater petition ballot question for placement on the 2022 spring annual town election ballot.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Second. Before we go on, I have a question, quick one. You probably could spend a half a day on it, but I remember a number of years ago, Federal Repository, they were talking about places in the mountains out west. There's a number of other issues. It's still not settled. Is that correct?
You're
And
talking
you don't
about
have to-
Yucca Mountain, right? You're talking about Yucca Mountain?
Right.
Allison McFarland was the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. She's a geologist with a degree from MIT. To have a really safe waste depository, it has to be dry and stable environment, and Yucca Mountain is not at all. So that, she said no. It was all political because the nuclear power industry would have to stop producing the waste if they weren't actively looking for a solution. So it was a false solution. A lot of smoke and mirrors out there.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a vote. Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you very much.
All right, next on our agenda is the request to use town roads, Cape Cod Athletic Club. Welcome back. And it's Howard Tarsi, is that correct? Taze, oh, I know that. I apologize. I even know Howard. Welcome, Howard. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. After our 2-year hiatus here from COVID, we're requesting use of the roads for the Chatham in the Fall 10K, which we picked up from Larry Bellevaux a couple years ago. And we did get permission to do it, but with COVID, we canceled, obviously. And then the Chatham in the Fall 10K, which was a spin-off of the Chatham Harbor Run, we started 7 years ago, I think. And we wanted to just get them back running again. And then a little caveat to the Chatham in the Fall 10K is that we're gonna use sharing kindness. I don't know if anybody looked it up when you saw my petition to use the roads. It's a suicide awareness group that is Cape Cod based and Cape Cod and the islands. And we chose them for the fall race because of we had 3 suicides on Cape Cod of high school kids in like a month. And one of the students was a child of one of our members. So that's why we went that route. And we're hoping to, be able to really help them out because, with COVID, this has been a real, it's a real need on Cape Cod. It's a real need anywhere, but on the Cape, we saw a real hit, so that's what we're looking for, so.
Okay, thank you. The routes are the same, right? Jeff had his,
Welcome back, Howard. Nice to see you, and certainly am supportive. It's been 2 great events in the past, and I look forward to having it again. So it's the same route, and we've approved this numerous times in the past. So that being said, I move to approve the use of town roads for the 31st Annual Chatham Harbor Run Walk to be held on Sunday, June 26th, 2022.
you have a second? Again, discussion? Hearing none, I'll start with Jeff.
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Shereen?
Aye.
Chair says aye. We have one more.
And, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the use of town roads for the 5th Annual Chatham Race in the Fall, 10K race, the 10K race in the fall, to be held on Sunday, November 20th, 2022.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none. Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thanks a lot, Howard.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Next up is an application for one-day alcohol permit and one-day entertainment permits from the Atwood House. And Kevin Wright is with us. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. My name's Kevin Wright. I'm the Executive Director of the Atwood Museum, home of the Chatham Historical Society. And this year, we're looking for a liquor permit for our annual gala, which is our Evening to Remember. It's coming back to the Atwood this year on July 16th, which is a Saturday. And it's the liquor, and that one is being donated by the Wequasit Resort, as they have in the last 5 years that I've been at the museum. So we're looking for that. In addition, we are trying to put together a music series at the Atwood, 2 concerts during June, July, and August for a total of 6. So we're looking for entertainment permit for those 6 concerts, and we hope to plan on selling beer and wine during intermission and prior to the concerts. That will happen in the evenings during the summer.
Thank you. Any question? Dean?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a disclosure that I'm a member of the Chatham Historical Society. I have a disclosure form on file. I'm not an officer or director, so I intend to participate in this matter.
Thank you, Dean. Any questions or comments from the board? If not, let's have a motion. We have 3 of them. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move to grant special one-day alcohol permits for all alcoholic beverages to Linda Sabula as a representative of the Chatham Historical Society for Saturday, July 16th, 2022, from 5 to 8 p.m., 347 Stage Harbor Road.
Second.
Second discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Next one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to grant special one-day alcohol permits for wine and malt beverages only to Kevin Wright as a representative of the Chatham Historical Society for Thursdays, June 2nd, June 23rd, July 7th, July 28th, August 11th, and August 25th, 2022, from 7 to 9 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road.
Thank you.
Second.
Second discussion? Okay, Shereen?
Are we voting? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Aye, sorry.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. One more.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant one-day entertainment permits to Kevin Wright as a representative of the Chatham Historical Society for Thursdays, June 2nd, June 23rd, July 7th, July 28th, August 11th, and August 25th, 2022, from 7 to 9 p.m., 347 Stage Harbor Road.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion? We'll start on the other end. Jeff?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Shereen?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Good luck, Kevin. Okay, next up is the donation acceptance from the Chamber and Merchants Beautification Committee, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 3. Whoever would like to speak. Hello, Amy.
Actually, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for the record, I am a member of both the Chamber and the Merchants, so just for the record, I want to disclose that.
Okay, thank you. All right, a reminder, whoever speaks, just let everybody know so we have it on the record. You give your name.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Amy Tagliaferri, and I'm with the Chatham Merchants, and I'm also the chairman of the Chatham Beautification Committee. And I wrote down something to read, is that okay?
Sure.
Last night, we received approval from Park and Rec for the new walkway project at Kate Gould Park. What is so great about this project is that it is a true collaboration of the many parts of Chatham. The Chamber formed the idea of a beautification committee. A merchant board member offered to chair it. I wanted to see new trash cans in town. And members from both organizations volunteered to serve on it. We were joined by members of the Chamber staff, the Chatham Garden Club, the Friends of Trees, a Chatham band member, folks born here who work here, and a second homeowner who loves Chatham as if it were her hometown. And of course, all the folks who love Chatham who bought a brick, and Nickerson Tree and Landscape who has taken on the work. I also want you guys to know that some of the bricks were purchased by the committee in memory of those we lost this past year. We were excited, so excited to make this happen. It's a cliche, but it does take a village.
It does. Yeah, we just received an email with some of the pictures that you had, so we should attach that to the minutes too, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we presented that last night to Park and Rec too.
Okay. Anyone else? Susan? No, Mary?
Hi, everyone. Mary Kavanaugh from the Chatham Chamber and Merchants Association. I just wanted to share some fun stats with you all. Thought you might be interested. So the fundraising all started. We took our first order on November 17th, and our last order for this round, February 15th. We sold 758 4x8 bricks and 263 8x8 bricks for a total of 1,021 bricks. We have additional folks wanting to place orders once we reopen the ordering process. And the effort has been so successful that we should have funds to do other enhancements in the park, such as additional plantings and maybe some irrigation. So I just wanted to share that info with you all, too.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Anyone else? Nope. Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, last night, Mary, can you talk about the scheduling of the installation?
Yes, and we have.
Well, you can tell. So Tim can answer
Yeah.
that, too.
Tim, yeah, that would be great.
We have
Thank you.
Tim here as well. Tim, you want to?
I'd be glad. Tim Nickerson, Nickerson Train Landscape.
Hello, Tim.
Good evening. So our proposal is to start in the near future, within about 3 weeks, and we certainly want to be done before the crowds arrive. So June 1st is our deadline for completion, and we intend to be completed well before that.
Good.
And if anybody has any questions on the construction process or materials, I'd be glad to answer.
Yeah, I have one.
Sure.
What kind of bricks are they? I remember that you brought up something before, because we have this discussion sometimes when people talk about brick sidewalks or bricks or something, that they don't last or they don't have anything. And I don't remember what kind of bricks, quote, bricks they are.
So it's more of a paver than a brick.
Yeah.
So it's a paver with a chamfered edge, so it'll look nice, all fit tight together. And we propose aprons at either end with a bush hammered granite, so it'll be a nice look. We're just not sure which choice we're going to use, whether it's a tempered, smooth surface, which might be better for ADA compliance and so forth. So I think that's what we'll go with. But the brick itself is more of a paver than a true clay brick. So I think it'll withstand the test of time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone
Sure.
from the board? No, we have a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Dean.
I guess the motion should be that we accept the donation of the brick walkway at Kate Gould Park. I move that from the
Right.
groups that
Right.
are sponsoring it.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Let's take a vote. Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Good luck. Thank you.
so much.
I think
Thanks.
it's a great project. Okay. Now we're into our annual town meeting citizens petition, which we have two. One, a special act for legislation, amend adopt residential real estate. Welcome, Mr. Taylor, former Selectman Taylor. Did I miss something? Seth? We're ready for you. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Select Board, how are you tonight? You guys already have it in front of you. As a citizen's petition, it automatically goes on. I was a little confused about the other one, where you voted to put it on, but I didn't hear you vote to support it. Was your vote to support it, or was it to put it on?
Yeah.
I misheard. Anyway, rather than take any of your time, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. The language on this is relatively straightforward. I would let you know that in thinking about this and putting this together, I had a Zoom conference with our senator from Truro and our representative from Provincetown. That went on for some period of time, and anyone that's interested in how that went, I'd be happy to share that with you. Otherwise, offline or however you'd like to do that. I reached out to them because I was interested to begin with, mostly with the process and how they saw the process going forward, and especially as it was being moved through a citizen's petition, as opposed to what I was experienced with previously, which were items that were moved through boards of selectmen as opposed from the citizens. So that whole process was something I was a little curious about and wanted to inquire of them of. So I can share more of that Zoom meeting with you if you'd like, or I can take questions at your pleasure.
Thanks, Seth. I do have this is different than what you had last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, last year was a citizen's petition anyway, so it goes on it goes
Correct.
to town meeting. And you changed a couple of things. One especially had to do with second homeowners who would rent, and if they rented for rented for a full year or year-round, then they would also get the
Well, let me summarize for you, Peter, and for the people that are paying attention to this at home. Last year's was a resolution because under the provisions of state law for the resident exemption, the exclusive authority for either adopting that or seeing that it's applied to a town rests with the Board of Selectmen. As you're all well aware, the voters cannot direct or require the Board of Selectmen to do something that is exclusively within their purview to do. So that's why it was only a resolution, which was intended, if it had passed, as a recommendation from the voters saying that this is something we, the voters of the town, would like to see you install in our system of taxation. This, as a special act of the legislature, in fact, if it is voted by the people of the town of Chatham, will be taken up by Beacon Hill and the general court. And if it is properly run through there and then signed by the governor, it would become law within the town of Chatham. And if it were just the resident exemption, it couldn't be done because that law already exists, and you can't ask for a law to be a law that already is a law, if that makes sense to everyone. That's right. Try to keep it simple. So I've thought about this whole issue for a very long time. And there are two things that pop up and are a recurring theme for me. One is affordability, which we talk about over and over again on affordable housing, which I believe has been supported unanimously by finance committees and boards of selectmen forever. But it's always been affordability of housing and trying to meet a 10% standard that's virtually impossible in the town of Chatham. The legislature has done a number of things to try to improve that. 40B was an attempt to try to get by that. Very limited success. Why? Because why are you going to build a home that you have to sell for $300,000 if you're a developer and you can build that home and sell it for $1.5 million? The profit incentive is there to not build affordable housing. As I see Shireen nodding her head, this has been an issue for her for a very long time. And it's been an issue for me too. We can't make more land in Chatham. We're nearly built out. So I started thinking, okay, it isn't simply affordability, it's accessibility. And how do we create accessibility outside of this affordable housing conundrum that we've trapped ourselves in? And I said, well, it's an issue of inventory, really. And how can we increase inventory of housing? I don't know about all of you, but my wife and I and two small children were 10 years before we could afford our first home. We rented, like many young couples do. But there are virtually no affordable rentals in the town of Chatham on a year-round basis because the profit incentive to rent during the summer is too big. About 2 months ago, oh no, it wasn't, it was longer than that, it was back around November. I ran into a guy on the street downtown, owned 4 properties in the town of Chatham, doesn't live here, doesn't plan on ever living here, is running around looking for more property to buy because to him, this is a gold mine. All of those properties are summer rentals. He turns them over to a real estate company to manage the summer rentals for him. And when he realizes the ability to sell them at profit margins that he has already predetermined when he purchased them, he does it and he flips them. And our tax code encourages that because as long as it's an investment property, no matter how much money he made on those sales, he's allowed to defer that until he finally cashes out. So it's like pyramiding. You buy a house for $500, you sell it for $1 million, You invest $1 million in one that's worth $1 million, you sell it for $1.5 million. You can do this ad infinitum. And these pressures, along with the other pressures, because of how gorgeous Chatham is, have driven our real estate prices into astronomical levels. One of the issues with the concept of just the residential exemption has been the question of fairness. I've never been a huge fan of the word fair. That nothing's fair. You know, where we're born, who we're born into, how smart we are, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing fair about any of that, just the way the dice lands. But I thought, let's make this more equitable on trying to stimulate inventory. I'll give you an example. One of the employees in the town, he and his wife have their residential home, and they have a rental property that they rent for the summer, 3-bedroom place. One of the amendments to the residential exemption talks about residents in the town, like this individual, I won't name him, and his wife, who live in their home and would qualify under the residential exemption to get a property tax exemption on their primary residence. But it would also motivate them to turn their summer rental property into a year-round rental, because they would get a second tax exemption for that property, provided only that it was a year-round rental with the additional codicils that are attached there, which I've included to try to guarantee that we don't have any shenanigans about, you know, subletting or, you know, renting to you for a year, you renting it back to me and me using it for summer rental. Well, I mean, all the machinations that somebody could possibly come up with, so that it actually would be a year-round rental and that the people who rented it would actually occupy that as their principal dwelling place. But I didn't stop there. I said, why not make that same opportunity available for non-resident Class 1 property owners? And I thought of this guy that owns 4 properties right now that are summer rentals. This guy is clearly driven by profit, right? So the likelihood of him, because he's only going to be allowed to do one, taking one of those 4 properties off of the summer rental market and directing his real estate company to make that a winter or a year-round rental and to continue with the other 3 rentals, just because of the simple way it'll cash out for him. It'll incentivize more opportunities for what really are opportunities for families to live here, which is 2- and 3-bedroom homes, because that's what most of the summer rentals are. So it's intended to incentivize inventory, to increase our pool of what would be rental property, because there's lists out the door. Anybody that has rental property, you know there's tons of people standing in line to try to get what year-round rental property there is. Very little available. And at the same time, it would do something which hasn't been I don't know why, but it hasn't been much of a starter. You know, last town meeting, we sat around and talked about creating the notion of attainable housing, where household income of $200,000 would entitle somebody to have the taxpayer buy housing for them that they could then move into. What, we're going to invite people from out of Chatham to move to Chatham with $200,000 that they can spend in taxpayer-supported housing, while we're not doing anything to help with the affordability of the people that are already here. Corey, Shireen, you know these people. Jeff, I think you know these people. They're older people that retired here, having sold out their property in the greater Boston area, come down here on a fixed income. They're being priced out of it. They're having to make choices, hard choices. Inflationary costs going through the roof. The cost of heating oil getting through the winter for some of these older people on fixed incomes. The first woman selectman in this town, God bless her soul, just recently passed away, Miss Ives. I sat and talked to her for over 3 hours. She was aghast at the inability of our town to be able to look after some of these fixed income seniors who are housebound. And affordability for her was only one of the issues. Young people, Shireen, you got kids. Corey, you got kids. Jeff, you got kids. How do we help with the affordability of the kids and the people that are here? And the residential exemption will do it. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to do something that's really cutting edge. And now I'll tell you what Sarah Peak told me. She said, Seth, this is a very innovative approach. And she says, I will tell you that neither I nor Julian take positions on these things because it's not for us to do that. But she goes, I think there is an enormous appetite for this on Beacon Hill. And I take her at her word that this is something that, oh, what else does she say? It could become a template for Barnstable County and the islands. So, any other things that I can throw at you? That's sort of a summary.
That's good. Thanks, Seth. I'm going to go to the board. I have some comments, and I'm going to be a devil's advocate for you because you did a couple of things on this one that I thought were necessary from the last one, especially on the other. But, I tend to be a numbers guy, and a lot of times, I think you do too. But I'll let the board speak first if anybody has any questions or whatever. Go ahead. Corey, go ahead.
Thank you, Seth. I agree. There's definitely an appetite for this out there. I know you do your homework, so walk me through some number or scenarios. So if you have a resident who has a secondary house that they rent out seasonally, the incentive is to have it a year-round rental, or a non-resident would have one property be
Correct.
Same scenario.
Yep.
So the summer market rates have gone through the roof. We all know that.
Yep.
So you get, pick a average three-bedroom house, X amount a week. So you got that times whatever the season is. Now you want to try to entice that owner, resident or or secondary owner, to do a 12-month lease. See what are the numbers that you're kind of projecting, because those numbers you've got to factor in with the year-round scenario, heating costs, cleanup costs, everything else associated with that. So what kind of it's going to boil down to money for these people, a lot of people. Some of it is going to be philosophical. Some will bite because it's monetarily beneficial to them. What is the numbers that are really, you can pitch to those people of why they should do it?
Yeah, you're not going to possibly be able to do that, Corey, because it's going to be an individual choice. Every property is going to be, and every individual is going to have to evaluate it. But what this does is it allows everyone to do that evaluation. It helps provide them the opportunity to do the right thing. I say that in quotation marks.
It's philosophical.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we'd all like to see more rentals in town, right? It's hard to argue against that. So if you're on the fence saying, I just make too much money renting in the summer, I have no other choice. But now you have a choice because we're incentivizing by giving you a financial advantage for doing it this way. There are a lot of other advantages. I've rented before. Short-term rentals, damage to property, water use, dump problems. There are a host of nightmares that go with short-term rentals. Long-term rentals can be a nightmare too if you get in a bad tenant, right? People have had different experiences. But this gives people an opportunity and incentivizes them to make a choice that then is a conscious decision on their part. Consciously, I'm going to rent in the summer because take your choice. I make so much more money, I'll be happy to lose it this piece. Or I just can't stand the idea of a year-round renter. I can't go there, Corey, because everybody's going to be different individually. And I'm sure you can understand and
No,
appreciate that.
I can appreciate that because, I mean, to say we're at a crossroads, we're beyond a crossroads point, but, I mean, anyone who gets mailing in the mail recently, there's all kinds of companies out there promoting, rent your house, sell your house.
Oh, yeah.
It's a multi-million-dollar industry.
Well, I can give you some numbers, Corey. There's somewhere between 7,200 and 7,400 Class 1 properties in Chatham. We have just over 6,000 residents, and the average residential household is made up of 1.8 people. Let's round it to 2, right? So you're looking at 3,000 Class 1 properties for residents, meaning that you've got somewhere between 4,200 and 4,400 non-residential Class 1 properties in town. The last time I was involved in this, there were at least 3,500 Class 1 summer rental properties in town, the last time I had a chance to even look at the numbers. So we're talking about serious numbers and serious opportunities, even if it's a small percentage. If 5% of 3,500 opted for year-round residents, you'd have 175 additional year-round rentals. And we're not talking about studio apartments. We're talking about 2- and 3-bedroom places, because that's, by and large, what our summer rental properties are, right? So, again, Corey, I'd love to be able to stand here and tell you with a straight face, this is what's going to happen. Can't. All I can promise the board is this is a real-time opportunity for us to be out in front of an issue that Cape Cod is being buried by. Absolutely buried by. I'm sorry it took me so freaking long to figure this out. I also understand it's up to you guys to decide whether you want to put your shoulder behind it or not. I'm not going to fight with anybody about it. I sat around, thought about it for a long time. I did the very best I could to pitch something. I got no dog in this fight other than I love this town.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Seth, thank you. I think this is, I would echo the sentiments of Representative Peak and Senator Sear, I guess. I do think it's a creative approach to perhaps being able to provide the town with more inventory of year-round rentals. I say perhaps because I think the greed factor for those folks that rent in the summertime will outweigh their proclivity to do good by the town to offer their place for year-round. But if you don't have something like this, you'll never know. So I think, nothing ventured, kind of nothing gained. And I would not be opposed to supporting it, and I would not be opposed to getting behind it. I think it's a creative approach. And, I thank you for your perseverance about this issue. You brought the issue up in front of town meeting last year, and you raised the issue repeatedly. And I do think this is a little finesse that, let's see what happens. If it gets by town meeting, which I think it might, and if it gets by the general court, which I have my doubts about, but you never know, because we have 3 home rule petitions up there right now that have yet to kind of move. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. So it's very creative, and I like it. I'm going to support it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff, I gotta accept your optimism. We can't ever know, can we, until we do it?
We do it.
But I'm gonna be the guy with the glass half full.
Good. Thank you.
Dean and then Shereen.
Thank you, Peter. Hi, Seth.
Hey, Dean.
I applaud your creativity. It is an innovative proposal, as I guess Senator Peak and Senator Sear and Representative Peak said. I just had a couple of points. One thing that I'm going to approach this from the standpoint not of housing, but of the citizens, the residents who might benefit from the exemption that you've been advocating for a long time. And as you know, I was opposed to the prior proposals, but there has been an intervening factor. I guess I may be a sole spokesman on this panel in this regard. The town has filed legislation for a transfer tax upon, as you know, that would affect that would impose a tax on the sale of property, including when people are downsizing. It has a $2 million threshold, and one problem I had with that legislation was that the threshold didn't have an escalator clause. And that has a bearing because the median sale price for a house in Chatham in the month of January was $1.7 million. So as the prices of homes, sales prices of homes continue to rise, that $2 million may affect people when they're trying to downsize toward the end of, as they get into their senior years. So the ability to provide people, if we're going to be taxed when we sell our house, when we downsize, I know that the legislation puts the tax on the onus on the buyer, but we know that that's going to affect the sales price. If we're going to be taxed when we downsize, when we sell, it seems to me it's helpful to have a break annually while you're owning that house. So that's maybe a very selfish way to look at it, but that's an intervening factor since your prior proposal that makes this more attractive to me. The other, I had just two other questions. One, second, well, it's not so much a question, it's a comment. In order to qualify for the exemption, if you have a trust, and there are a number of people who have trusts in this town, the guidance from the Revenue Department, which was provided to us in prior renditions, is very particular, and I think not all trusts are drafted the same way, even though they may implicitly mean the same thing. So there may be some legal cost on that. The final point is, in looking at the petition, and you answered a question I was going to ask at the outset when you said that if this is enacted by the legislature, this would become the law. So your understanding is it wouldn't come back to the select board to have to make a vote to adopt it?
No,
Okay.
that's my understanding. That's the way it's been written.
Yeah. The only comment I would make, and I don't know if, I know this was sent to town council, but I think he was just looking as to form. That intent, I think, is present in the final sentence under the motion where it says, and I'll read it, the Massachusetts legislature and all representatives of the town, as well as the voters at town meeting, shall take such other action as may be required in order to advance, enact, and implement the referenced special act, which shall become law upon final approval. Just looking at that from a legal standpoint, I think that paragraph is not likely to be part of the legislation, part of the statute if it were to be enacted. I think that would be more of an expression of the will of the town meeting, and whether that itself is binding on the board, I don't know.
I created and crafted that language out of my research and review into approaching special acts of the legislature and some of the subtleties involved. A special act of the legislature can be accomplished simply by saying, I really don't know how to do this, but this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And just, please, Great and General Court, handle it.
Yeah, so
Right? All the way down to this, which that last paragraph provides them the opportunity to look at this and say, from the point of view of the way this is crafted, because they have their legal scholars look at this thing and say, okay, this is pretty good, but we should do this, and it's clearly the legislative intent, because that's what they'll look at. If this comes out of town meeting, it's our legislature. And the Great and General Court, per Sarah and Julian, take and accept acts of our legislative body, town meeting, as seriously as anything that is presented to them. It requires nothing else.
Yeah.
In fact, I particularly asked them, I said, I've had some issues, and the Select Board Finance Committee have had some issues with me trying to work this issue, which I haven't done a very good job of, in all honesty, of getting the message across as to why this is something good to try. And I take a great deal of responsibility for my inability to have effectively communicated what I've been trying to accomplish in the past. But both of them go, hey, if this comes through town meeting, this is as good as gold on Beacon Hill, and we will move as expediently as we can. And the language shall become law upon final passage. That's a recommendation of any language that is presented in any special act, because otherwise there are several different sections in other parts of MGL that can cause new laws to go before different boards and committees to be reviewed.
Yeah.
So it says, this is the only way around that, is to say that it will become law upon,
Well, this would be the expression of our town meeting if they adopt it. And the legislature, as you know, can, as you just said, can adopt, enact a statute that binds and obligates the town of Chatham and doesn't require any further action by anybody within the town. That's your intent. I understand that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to support this. I didn't talk about the housing aspects because others haven't, but I share their appreciation for the potential advantages that we may get from this. So I thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Go ahead, Seth.
In response, Dean, to your issue on the transfer tax, I was opposed to that as well. The $2 million threshold is an item, but on reflection, one of the things that I've thought about is that other than the profiteers, and I'm going to push them to one side, folks that are downsizing are, generally speaking, people that have been here for a long time, or 10 years, maybe even 20. And they bought in at $400,000, and now they can sell for $1.8 million. If the person on the other side of the equation says that means I'm going to have to pay this extra transfer tax, that just is too much of a bump for me. What can you do to knock this off? I still don't think that that's going to do anything to harm people that are downsizing. I think that how chaotic the upside of this market is, and the profits that are there and available to these people that are downsizing, I think they may look at it as a gift because they won't be paying taxes on that. They'll probably be able to turn that money into something that has less of a tax liability when they buy a new property. So I think there are offsets there from the point of view of purchase and sale.
Yeah, the only comment I'll make is that, on that, thank you for that, is that I think what's going to wind up on Beacon Hill is a law of general applicability and not exclusive to particular towns. And the one that was filed, I think it's in the current legislative session, is the one that it uses, instead of $2 million, it uses the state median price, which is about $500,000.
Yeah.
And if we get something like that, who knows what could happen in the future down the line. But thank you, and thank you. I appreciate your opposition to the concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
I'll keep it short, and thanks, Seth. This was really a cool read to see this come forward, and really supportive of it. One of the things that I think, as a matter of note, that there's about only 14 towns in Massachusetts that have some sort of residential tax exemption right now. But some of the things that I've seen over the last couple of years, and talking to some citizens here who are really struggling with living here. And, their options for if they're having any difficulty paying their taxes oftentimes are, they don't pay them, or they have to owe them and add 18% interest. They can work it off. But some of them, you could defer them. There's an opportunity that you can defer your taxes, but that puts the onus on the sale of the property down the road and your potential heirs if you're older. The idea that people struggle with their taxes and struggle with their payment, with their living in Chatham, is a real deal here. And it's not just, we always do think about the young folks and whatever, but seniors have on fixed incomes have a tough time. And most people that grew up here, might not have, they might have worked hand to mouth all their lives, and they're sitting on valuable property. And I'm not sure that I'm going to buy that incentivized program as going to be a way to save for year-round rentals, because I think there's so much greed for Chatham now. I mean, we're an investment community rather than a second homeowner community at this point, and that's a scary thought. So, I'm really supportive of this. I'd really like to see how this is going to move forward, and I hope it prevails at town meeting.
Well, thank you for that, Shereen. I agree with everything you said.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I go, just for myself.
You left Corey off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, he already spoke. You're okay? Okay. Thank you, Seth. I argued with myself on this for the last 4 years. Every
Who
time
won?
we do, I'll tell you why. Here's just to look at it from my perspective. Never mind the real estate. The real estate, the second homeowner who's going to use his home, for a year-round rental, I don't think the numbers are there. But I take to your point, if it's a small number, small percentage, that is going to be helpful, because you're going to get, homes are getting 3,000 a week, 2,000 a week, 4,000 a week, and in our package, they get, if it was $1 million home, they're going to get a, $700 back. That's not much of an incentive for somebody. But to do the right thing, we may get 5%. I kind of agree with that. The numbers, if you're just looking at it from a financial point of view, you're going to say, we're going to change all of this just for 2 or 3%. But 2 or 3% or 4%, you might help a lot of people. That's my problem. If you look at our demographic, right? We're older. The things we've been pushing for in affordable housing and attainable housing. Just one point on attainable, because what we're talking about are people that make relatively good salaries. Yeah, 200% could take you to $200,000, but it doesn't have to be that. The point is, if the median income here, Cape-wide, right, is or around Barnstable County is $96,000, or I heard it's even higher than that, but for a family of 4. If you have only 2 people in it, it goes down considerably, maybe into the 80s. You have housing that's here. If you have that kind of a salary, what does it take to get into a $500,000 or $600,000 house? And if you believe what comes out of Housing Assistance Corporation, you need a salary of over $130,000. We're not talking, this whole thing. We have an affordability housing rule that was made decades ago that doesn't even compare with what the salaries are in our area. Now, Western Massachusetts, maybe. But in any case, that's what the attainable housing is supposed to do. And I agree with you on one point. We need supply. And we need more supply, but we need supply that you can afford. Contractors that are out there or that we deal with kind of locally are going with the market. They're building big houses because they get good profit out of that. But there are a number of contractors that build affordable housing so that you can, but it means density, which is another issue, but it means smaller houses put together. And how do they do that? The town has to provide them the land, the town has to provide them some sort of funds, and then there are, much as I hate to say it, a number of grants and ways that they can get money then so that they make a profit by building $500,000 houses, okay? So let's put that aside. Back to where we are now. This law, when it was originally, I went and researched this, and I hate to say I did, but a number of years ago, it was really started out in the cities. And it was looking at those places that had a minimum of around 70% of the homes were second homeowners. Or what it really was were guys that built apartments and buildings, and then you had this small group of people that were the year-round residents that were getting killed by all the taxes that were with the housing market the way it was going. That was then. Now, not only is the Cape a problem, this is a statewide problem. It's a countrywide problem as far as housing is concerned. So, Chatham. Here we are, Chatham. We have a pretty low tax rate, but a high housing cost. So we're in the middle of how much anybody on the Cape pays. But the number of people, here's my conundrum. The number of people that are full-time residents. There are a number that have been second homeowners, and they retire. There's the long-time ones that you talk about that have been here for years that are struggling, and I get it. We have a large group of people that I say have incomes and of some sort or another that are commensurate with what the housing prices are here. 40% we understand still in the future of our second homeowners are going to retire here. So when they retire, they're going to get a tax break, which is fine. They're going to come back down to where everyone else is, but they add to that big group of folks in the middle who are going to get a benefit from this residential tax exemption that we have to change our whole tax system to do. We may have to employ another person to follow, to make sure that it's being consistent and so forth. So is this, and it's a good question, I haven't made my mind, is this an effective and efficient way to help the people that we really need? We are pushing hard for affordable, quote, attainable housing. We're going to get there. And the reason it hasn't been done before, I believe, is not because of care and interest, but because the problem has gotten so bad, people can't ignore it. And I hate to put it that way. And shame on us for not trying to do something sooner, just like you said. It should have been done before. And whether you're here for years or whatever, I mean, if you decide to live here, you're doing it for a reason. So I have this, we're putting money into the problem. And the problem are the second homeowners that come in and the people that are using it for an investment. All right? And that has been around for a long time. It's just getting worse. So you put a transfer tax on people that are coming in and doing that. That's one way of doing it.
All that does is make money for the town. That doesn't stop people buying stuff.
That's exactly right, but it's the same way with the residential tax exemption.
No, it doesn't. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, okay, let me finish, and then you can argue it all right. But I don't, here's the other point. We take funds, and we're trying to help our younger families. We're trying to improve, we're adding money for pre-K. We're adding money for childcare, and that's expensive. If you have two children or one child, you have to pay $20,000 and $30,000 a year for childcare. You might as well stay home. Sometimes we couldn't have done it, but that's my point. You take cash and you put it where the problem is. The residential tax exemption is taking care of a problem, but it's spreading it around for a whole bunch of people who really don't need it. And that's where I'm coming from. Is it this amount? But how do you take care of those seniors? If you have affordable housing that they can downsize into, selling $1 million house and they move into an affordable house, you're taking care of part of that, if they want to do that. If they want to do that. Yeah, or, I'm not going to, well, my point is, you don't think there are a lot of people who are residents right now that are going to get this tax exemption that really don't need it?
Well,
that's my point. Please do, because
okay.
I'd rather agree with you than not.
Okay, Peter. I mean, you bounced around a lot of issues without me hearing a specific point as to why what I'm proposing isn't a good, valid attempt. But the last thing you just said is the first thing I've heard that I can respond to as to, do I think that a lot of people will get a residential benefit that don't need it? No. Because the residential benefit, and you can have the tax people do this, or you can do it yourself. I did it myself last year. All you do is apply the formula. The people who get the greatest benefit for this are the people who own the most modest homes. The people who own more expensive homes, the benefit, if any, that they get is de minimis compared to the lower valued homes.
Yeah,
in that regard, it's a very progressive response to who gets a larger percentage of value back, because the exemption is based on a pool of applicants, the value of those properties averaged out, and a number required that is a dollar value that then reduces your liability. I'm going to make up a number. $500,000, you got $1 million house, you're going to pay taxes on $500,000. You have to pay a minimum of 10% of the value of your property, assessed value. The property never is lesser of value. The valuation stays the same. There are people that believe that doing a residential exemption means now all of a sudden their property is worth less. It isn't. It's the same valuation.
Yeah.
Well, that rumor got spread around last year before town meeting, that it was devaluing people's property. And I don't know who started that, but it wasn't helpful.
No, here's my point, though. You know, we have one in the package, and it says if you have take the median home, right? And it is $1,046,000 million house, all right? You get a benefit of $617, medium. The 500, 600,000. Now, we're in a appreciating market. If that's the median. Last year, the houses, and last year I went through the numbers too. I went down to a $500,000 house, and that's correct. It is progressive, and and I understand all that. But still, you know, last year our housing was the median was $944,000, and the amount of benefit you'd get was like $580. So there's a $30 difference from last year to this year. My point is that housing is appreciated. How many of those homes below $1 million are there? And there may be a number. We see $500,000 or $600,000 houses, but there aren't as many as there are of the above. So all you can talk about is the mean. So if the person at $600,000 gets how much more? You know, a couple $100 more? $200, $300 more? It's a zero-sum game as far as the town is concerned. We're not getting any more money. It's just spread differently, and I understand. Is that enough of a help for the people that really need it compared to all the others that are going to get a windfall?
Okay.
You know, but that don't need it. That's my real problem. And if we could take that money and use it.
First of all, that you're taking out one piece of this proposal versus.
Well, I'm taking one as
the
another.
second piece of it is intended to add to the availability of housing as well. So it's an affordability and availability thing. Until it actually gets kicked off, to say I know for certain how it's going to be, I can't. But let me ask you a question, Peter.
Sure.
You got a COVID check from the federal government?
Yeah, I did.
Did you need it?
No.
What'd you do with it?
What did I do with it?
Yeah.
I put it back into I put it into a charity.
Yeah, that's what I did with mine too. But you know what, when I went down to the window at the Cape Cod 5, and I said, gee, I hope the people that are getting this that don't need it are giving it to charity. And you know what I was told? People are walking away with it as cash, Mr. Taylor. They're not depositing it in their accounts, which is what would happen if they were going to then write a check to a charity. She goes, 99% of the people walking away with this money are putting it in their pocket. I'd like to believe the best of people, and I do, but what I'm telling you right now, Peter, is what Jeff said at the beginning of this thing is, this is a chance, and Dean reflected on it as well, this is a chance for us to try something that hasn't been tried, and Shireen recognized it. We have a problem. This approach has not been tried. And now I'm going to tell you something Sarah Peak told to me. In fact, she's the one that helped me clarify my thoughts on this. She goes, because you may know, Provincetown has the residential exemption. She goes, Seth, when we put this in, we just adopted the residential exemption. And she goes, and then one of our businessmen who lives in Truro came to the town and said, look, I have this property that I got from my father that's in Provincetown, and I use that to house workforce housing during the summertime. And now I'm probably going to be forced to sell this property. And she goes, you know what? We found that the legislature was not only interested with, but excited about tweaking things to help customize them to issues within the town. You know what they did? They found a way to make the Provincetown law that property got the exemption by virtue of the fact that it was being used for full-time workforce housing.
Yeah, that
And
worked, I saw that.
So adoption of this, if we see that we're having unintended consequences and that we can do better by tweaking it, that's what laws are for us to be able to tweak it. But, you know, I can't argue a negative with you. And if you're intent against us, that's an opinion
No, that's not my
you hold.
point. I'm trying to argue with myself, and I'm going back and forth on it. And the.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to try a novel approach to a problem that we've been experiencing for years.
Okay, I'll just say the last one that bothers me, maybe Gene can mention it. If this becomes law, it's not going to be easy to change. Or will it be?
Provincetown found it was easy enough to change. They
No, this is
made
a
that
federal law.
tweak.
I mean, this is a state law. If
That's
it
right,
becomes-
this is a state law. That's what,
Yeah.
it's the residential exemption
Yeah,
that they
well,
tweaked to make that happen.
Yeah, but okay. The change would be, you could do it locally if we didn't go to the state to change the federal law.
It's not a federal
No?
law at the state level. This is
I
not
mean,
a federal
excuse me,
law.
a state law.
This
Am
is
I wrong?
Massachusetts state
If
law.
I am,
Nothing federal about this.
okay.
And
No,
if
I
the
understand.
legislature passes this, it's a law that's applicable only to the town with the force of the general
Okay,
statute.
yeah, I got you. And I misspoke when I said federal. I didn't mean federal. I
That's
keep
all your
thinking
time in the federal government, Peter.
No.
One
20
size fits all.
Well, 20 years only, but not 24. Go ahead, Dean. Thank you, Seth. I really appreciate the dialogue.
Thanks, Peter. Just, I won't take long. I did not get one of those COVID checks, and that's,
You didn't.
I did not.
I'd ask why, Dean.
I did not, and, you know, maybe the way they were handed out says something about why we have the 40-year high in inflation in this country right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
But anyway, and I would just say in response, as a comment on your dialogue with Peter, you know, what's wrong with giving taxpayers a break, even if they don't need the money? And I did have a question, Seth, that I neglected to ask earlier. In your last iteration of this, at last town meeting, and the resolution that you put forward, you were calling upon the select board to start, I think, at 20% on the exemption, and
I did that because
and
I
they
thought it
would
was
go
more
up to-
palatable.
Go up
Yep.
to 30%. This particular version doesn't recite anything about that. So how would that work? Would the
It's
select, would the
it's the
select board?
language in the statute
So the
right now.
select board would have to,
It would be adopted as the language within the statute, which is currently set at the maximum available. I don't know what it is right now. I think it's 30%. 35, yep.
okay.
And,
But it doesn't say that in your article, I don't think.
well, it does say
Is that your intent?
adopt that chapter 50, blah, blah, blah.
But doesn't the statute say, I haven't looked at the statute
The
recently. Doesn't-
statute provides an opportunity for the Board of Selectmen to adjust the rates.
Right, and that
And
would
I
that
think
still
that,
be the case if this were adopted?
I believe that it would be because we're asking to adopt the statute and only adding 2 items to amend it.
Right, so
So
it-
the law itself should stand as it reads right now.
So it would come back to the selectmen to set the rate?
And that's what's at the bottom of the,
Okay.
the article. And that's my understanding, and that's what my attempt is, Dean.
Okay, I wanted to get your intent. Thank you. Thank you,
Yep.
Seth.
Yep.
Hey, thank you, Dean. I'm glad you asked that question. Anyway, any other comments? Seth, well done. Thank you. I hate to give out, argue with myself and then go in the direction I didn't
You're
think I
gonna
was
get in
going
a
to go.
dark closet, Peter. And then come up after which one of you wins.
I'm a
That's it.
finance. All right. Any other comments or a motion? It's going to be, it's already on the warrant, so we have a motion to recommend, or do you want to wait?
Move to recommend, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? We start with Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Let
Appreciate
us
it.
all see where we go.
You bet.
I haven't had an invitation from the Finance Committee, but I expect maybe one will be forthcoming.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. Next is annual town meeting, tent camping. And Mr. Eldridge, Thad, well, there you are. Welcome, Thad.
Hello. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
For the record, I'm Thad Eldridge. A few years ago, I got involved in the Scouts, or re-involved with the Scouts. And the leaders weren't sure how to reopen the camp. We've always camped out by Goose Pond. The use has been abandoned at this point. So we started looking into it. Our zoning bylaw does not have a mechanism to allow for tent camping on town-owned property to perpetuate this use that we've enjoyed for decades. The Conservation Commission does have a process. So we would like to amend the zoning bylaw to get out of the Conservation Commission's way and allow for this to reopen. I drafted this to avoid spot zoning and to make it as simple as possible, just saying, hey, the Conservation Commission has control over the MC properties, and let's just let them do. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, Thad, this is not an article recommendation. This is to send back to send to the planning board so it can have a public hearing. So we really can't even make a decision on it. But does anybody have any questions? Dean?
Just a procedural question. So would it, presumably they'll hold a hearing before town meeting, and then would it come back to us for a recommendation at that point, or would we make a recommendation on the floor or go without a recommendation?
It would be, Mr. Chair, to make a recommendation. It just depends on when it's scheduled. It might be the same day as town meeting to make that recommendation and announce it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions? No, I have just one. Hey, Thad, you know, the rules governing conservation lands was brought up, you know, we have it here, and when you go to the planning board, I guess, and there's a number of things that are in there, you know, that make it kind of hard to do tent camping unless you don't build a fire and don't dig a hole and so forth. You see that as a problem?
I've been to the Conservation Commission to review this, and anybody who would want to camp would need written authorization from the commission for fires or for camping. I mean, there is a mechanism in place there for it.
Okay. Any other comments? Could we have a motion then?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we refer this article to the planning board for public hearing and report to town meeting in accordance with Massachusetts general law.
I second that.
Second, any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Shereen?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Well, good luck at planning board, Thad.
Thank you much.
Take care. Okay, that's it for our agenda item. Anybody?
Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Second, we'll start with Jeff.
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Shereen?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Good night, Chatham. Oh, it's only 7 o'clock. Wonderful.